Don't judge a book by its cover and don't judge a phone by its specs. And the Pixel 10 Pro XL is the perfect example of that. On paper, this thing surely looks like a disaster and X didn't hold back at all. But after having used this phone as my daily driver, I can confidently say that it's not that simple. Some parts of the phone are surprisingly refined and some parts of it are excruciatingly frustrating. And today I'm going to break that all down for you. Plus what I'm going to be doing is I'll pit this phone against the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra to find out which one of these two phones is the better representative of the peak Android experience. Alright, if you're watching me for the first time, I'm Arshad. This is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now this is the Pixel 10 Pro XL, right? Now, right next to the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Do you really see any difference? There is none. In fact, even the dimensions are literally the same. Google hasn't changed anything at all. So much so that my friend Mukul actually managed to fit the Pixel 9 Pro XL into a Pixel 10 Pro XL's case. Translation, Google didn't spend any money on R&D for industrial design this year because why fix something if it ain't broke? And you know what? I'm going to say it outright here, even if you don't believe it. These are two of the best looking phones in the market right now. Flagship, budget, mid-range, whatever you consider. However, there's one change with the Pixel 10 Pro XL that I'm not really happy about, is that it is actually heavier than the Pixel 9 Pro XL this year. And considering this video is not a comparison with the Pixel 9 Pro XL and it's a comparison with the Galaxy S25 Ultra, this phone is actually lighter and slimmer than the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And while the phone still feels premium, it's very dense too. I feel like the extra weight does hamper the in-hand experience, and I feel like Google should concentrate on making a slimmer and lighter Pixel next year, especially the Pro phones. Now this new color is actually called Moonstone, and there are a bunch of other colors that are available as well. Now take a look at it right next to the titanium silver variant of the Galaxy S25 Ultra. They look very similar, right? Basically the Pixel's Moonstone is like a mattified version of the Galaxy S25 Ultra's titanium silver. Now that's about the design, but when you talk about the durability of the phones, you get Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protection on the Pixel 10 Pro XL's rear glass and front glass as well. In comparison, Samsung one-ups the Pixel 10 Pro XL by giving you Corning Gorilla Armor 2 protection. Plus the other advantage with the Galaxy S25 Ultra is that you actually get a titanium frame compared to the aluminum, like glossy aluminum frame that you get with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. As for the rest, you also do get IP68 rating on both and USB Type-C Gen 3.2 as well. So that's sorted. But overall, if you look at it, design-wise, I prefer this, but build-wise, S25 Ultra is slightly better. Slightly. By the way, there's still a lot to cover, including the controversial performance aspect of the Pixel 10 Pro XL. But before I move on to those aspects, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead, do that, give us your support. Very important. Now, the Pixel 10 Pro XL's display is actually excellent. It's a 6.8-inch 120Hz LTPO OLED panel and very similar in specs to the Galaxy S25 Ultra's display. And you know what? It's so similar that both these phones actually only support HDR10 Plus and not Dolby Vision. Now, when I compared the HDR10 Plus tuning, Pixel actually pulls ahead of the Galaxy S25 Ultra. The tone mapping is so well done that in Interstellar's black hole scene, the peaks in the brightness are very well controlled. But more importantly, in HDR content especially, the skin tones look more natural on Pixel compared to the Galaxy S25 Ultra. In fact, even the SDR performance is better on the Pixel. Because when I check these two panels side by side, what I noticed is that the colors look punchier and more vibrant on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And you know what? The Pixel 10 Pro XL is actually behaving like a 10-bit panel, but I'm not so sure if it is a 10-bit panel. I've asked Google and they haven't come back to me yet. Because the S25 Ultra has an 8-bit panel, and until last year, the Pixel 9 Pro XL also had an 8-bit panel. So regardless, I think that the Pixel 10 Pro XL's display just looks much more vibrant compared to the S25 Ultra. The brightness metrics have also gone up this year on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. It's one of the brightest displays that you can find on a flagship phone. You get 2200 nits of peak brightness in HBM mode and 3300 nits in HDR. Of course, even the Galaxy S25 Ultra is pretty bright, and when you see them side by side, you really cannot tell the difference most of the times. But more importantly, what is a game-changing feature on the Galaxy S25 Ultra is that anti-reflective coating, which should be on all flagship phones if you ask me. And one other thing that I noticed about the Pixel that I definitely want to tell you is that the LTPO panel is tuned so well that it reliably drops down to 1 Hz and switches between refresh rate depending on whatever's playing on your screen. I think that the LTPO tuning is the best in the business on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Both the phones also come with an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner, of course the best in the business, but it's the haptic feedback tuning on the Pixel 10 Pro XL that made me go, wow. Of course, it's because the vibration motor is very well tuned, but more importantly, Google has implemented it so beautifully across the UI. It's something that you must experience. For example, in the multitasking carousel, the vibration changes intensity as you swipe through the apps. It's quite the best in the business, and definitely the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra cannot match up to the Pixel in this regard. And I'm worried that considering that the Galaxy S26 Ultra is going to be even slimmer next year, I don't think that the haptics are going to be improved. But I hope that Samsung proves me wrong. And you know what? The speakers on the Pixel 10 Pro XL have leveled up too. They sound fuller, they sound richer, and pack far more bass than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Don't believe me? Take a listen to it for yourself and let me know what you think. These are the best speakers that I've tested on a phone till now. Now for the controversial aspect of the Pixel 10 Pro XL, and that is the Tensor G5. The good thing here is that Tensor is now finally made on TSMC's 3nm fabrication process. But the bad thing is that Google doesn't mention anything about the GPU capabilities of the phone, even in its blog. However, Google has put a lot of efforts into the AI performance improvements, and therefore the TPU is 60% more powerful now. In fact, even the CPU is 34% more powerful. By the way, with the Pixel 10 Pro XL, you also do get UFS 4.0 storage now, and that's only with the 256GB variant. And that's the only variant that is available in India, which is kind of stupid if you ask me, because with the 512GB variant and the 1TB variant in the US, you actually get zoned UFS, which is new technology, which is supposed to be better for AI tasks. Now, Google, tell me something. If you're selling the best version of your phone in our country, why don't you give us higher storage, especially with the Pro phone? I mean, 256GB is very limiting in 2025, especially for a Pro phone, right? Alright, now let's talk about the benchmarks, and I ran a few tests. In answer to the Tensor G5 actually scores closer to the Snapdragon 8s Gen 3, and Geekbench shows CPU gains that are near Snapdragon 8s Gen 4 levels. But the Snapdragon 8 inside the Galaxy S25 Ultra obviously easily obliterates the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Now this time I also ran a bunch of AI tests, and in Geekbench AI Pixels results are very positive. As you can tell for yourself, the quantized score is higher than the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I also tested Llama 3.2's 3 billion instruct model using PocketPal. There is a benchmark that you can run, and the Snapdragon 8 Elite is still better, but the Tensor holds up really well. Now, while Google hasn't mentioned much about the GPU, I did test out the GPU. The first thing that you need to note is that there is no ray tracing support. That is what Google has confirmed. Now, how did I test the GPU? Of course, 3D Mark was not whitelisted while the time I was testing the phone, but I played Genshin Impact at highest graphics and 60 FPS targets for 30 minutes, which is something that we do with all the phones. And this time I played it on the S25 Ultra as well. And of course, the S25 Ultra has better and higher average FPS compared to the Pixel 10 Pro XL. In fact, it also runs cooler, slightly cooler compared to the Pixel 10 Pro XL. By the way, the Pixel 10 Pro XL doesn't get hot, and the thermal efficiency is actually very good. I have no complaints this year. So overall, for a flagship phone, the CPU and GPU performance is still very underpowered, but the AI performance has improved by leaps and bounds. Now, I want to give you a quick sneak peek of the Pixel 10 review that we're working on and should drop really soon. Is that the Pixel 10's thermal efficiency is not as good as the 10 Pro XL, and that's because the 10 Pro XL has a proper vapor cooling chamber, which Pixel 10 does not. Now, the other advantage with the Tensor G5, thankfully with the TSMC process, is that you do get good battery life. Now, I had a couple of battery runs, and in my first run, the display was at default resolution, which is basically 1080p, and I used the phone for 20% on 5G and 80% on Wi-Fi. AOD was of course switched off, and I ran a lot of benchmarks. All of the benchmarks that I spoke about before, I ran all of them, and I got a screen on time of 6 hours and 30 minutes. And my second run, the screen on time went down to approximately 5 hours 40 minutes because I pushed the phone to its limits. I switched it to maximum resolution, switched on always on display, and was 100% using it on 5G. And with that, I can say confidently that you can expect anywhere between 5.5 hours to 6.5 hours, sometimes even 7 hours of battery life with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And it is of course slightly better than the 5 to 6 hours of screen on time that I'm getting with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. And this is of course based on my usage. Your mileage could vary. Now, with the Pixel 10 Pro XL, the charging speeds have also improved. You actually can charge the phone from 0 to 100% in about 1 hour 27 minutes with the 45 watt PDPPS charger. However, with the same 45 watt PDPPS charger, you can actually charge the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra in about 1 hour 18 minutes. So it's about 9 minutes faster. That could also be because the Pixel has a slightly larger 5200 mAh battery. But the biggest new addition to the Pixel 10 Pro XL is the Pixel Snap feature, with which you actually get support for Qi 2.2, which means that you can actually charge the phone wirelessly at 25 watt speeds. Unfortunately, while I was searching around, I couldn't find a single third-party Qi 2.2 charger in the market available right now. So you will have to be dependent on the Pixel Snap charger. And of course, Samsung doesn't have those magnets this year, so you do not get magnetic wireless charging, which is something that Samsung will have to bring next year with the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. In fact, I feel like every single Android flagship brand should bring that feature. MagSafe and Pixel Snap are really godsend. Now, network performance in my time with the Pixel 10 Pro XL has mostly been solid. It's solid on the S25 Ultra, not much to talk about it. Some people have concerns about bad network quality on Pixel phones. With the 10 Pro XL, we're not seeing bad network quality at all. What I did notice, however, on one of the days that I was testing the phone is that it was constantly on LTE with Airtel, but with Jio it was on 5G. So I feel like it could be an Airtel problem, because right now it doesn't have that problem and it is sticking to 5G. On paper, the Pixel 10 Pro XL's camera hardware is largely unchanged from last year, but with the new Tensor G5, what you get is an improved ISP and NPU, because of which you get cool camera features like, for example, the 100x ProRes zoom and the camera coach. And about that camera performance, I have both positives and negatives to report, so I'm not going into the specs and the details, which you can check for yourself, but what I'm going to be doing is showing you some actual samples. So the primary camera now captures more details and sharper textures than the Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is clearly visible at 100% crop. The HDR performance has also improved massively. Pixel generally handles the highlights better than Samsung, but Samsung brightens the shadows more. However, when you look at the darker shadow region, you will notice that Pixel has actually controlled the noise much better than Samsung. In fact, when I transferred some of the HDR photos and saw it on my MacBook Pro's display, which is an HDR display, I noticed that the Pixel 10 Pro XL has brighter specular highlights compared to the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, if you want to see that on an HDR enabled display, then I will actually link the photos in the description. Go check it out. Now, even the color accuracy is spot on with the Pixel. Now, Samsung is good too, but it often deepens the reds and the pinks for an extra pop. Now, in low light, Pixel is far superior with much better noise control and much more detail visible at 100% crop, though it sometimes crushes the shadows. Thankfully, Google seemed to have listened to feedback about the brown skin issue when capturing photos, because it would show it as too red. That has been fixed with the Pixel 10 Pro XL for sure. Although there's still a little bit of a slight red tint, but I prefer it over Samsung's really warmer tones. Now, against the light, Pixel's HDR tone mapping is again better, but when you look at the 100% crop, you can see that it kinda over sharpens, while Samsung looks more natural. Portraits on the Pixel 10 Pro XL continue to be its weak spot. Firstly, Pixel only uses the primary camera for portraits. It doesn't use the 5x telephoto. So you get 1x, 2x and 3x. So anything beyond 1x looks terrible due to the digital crop and poor semantic segmentation. And when you look at portraits, generally Samsung is just leagues better compared to the Pixel. Now, selfies are solid on both. Pixel goes a little contrast heavy, where Samsung nails the skin tones, and both do well with portrait selfies as well. However, when it comes to low light selfies, I think Pixel has an edge here. And the other advantage with the Pixel 10 Pro XL's selfie camera is that it's got a wider field of view compared to the Samsung. And that is particularly useful in the new auto best take feature, which uses multiple photos or multiple selfies that you've taken and brings out the best face of the people in the photo and sort of fuses it together and shows you one final image, which is pretty cool. Now, talking about the ultra wide angle camera, both have high resolution ultra wide angle cameras and they're pretty similar in daylight, but Pixel kind of wins in low light. Now, both the ultra wide angle cameras also offer auto macro, but Samsung is far better, especially with the detail and the fact that you can actually zoom in and also capture, macro shots, which the Pixel can do as well, but the quality is not even close to Samsung here. Alright, now let's talk about zoom, which is very, very important with the new Pixel 10 Pro XL because it can go up to 100x and have great quality. But when you look at the lower zoom levels, especially at 2x and 3x, Samsung looks much cleaner. At 5x, I feel like both are almost equally matched, but at 10x and beyond, especially 30x and 100x, ProRes zoom just shines. Just take a look at these 30x camera sample comparisons and a few 100x shots as well. And you will see here that it actually uses AI to recreate scenes, and while the details look slightly smoothed out, the results are very, very usable. And it's particularly very usable in low light shots at 30x. Some of these shots that I captured at 30x compared to the S25 Ultra, it's just so much better. Now, of course, there are times when the Pixel actually botches up the text in certain, zoom shots, which is also true for the Samsung, by the way. Alright, now let's compare the video recording capabilities. Now, both the phones can actually shoot at 4K 60 FPS, and I compared the SDR footage. Pixel captures more details thanks to the higher bitrate recording and better dynamic range. Samsung stabilization and sound recording is superior again thanks to the higher bitrate audio recording. Alright, now we're recording a 4K 60 FPS video using the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Alright, now we're recording a 4K 60 FPS video using the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. But when it comes to HDR10 video recording, Samsung does it better with higher higher bitrate video recording quality and the option to shoot in 4K 60 FPS, which Pixel cannot, because Pixel can only do 4K 30 FPS HDR videos even today. Even the ultra wide angle video recording quality is much better on Samsung. You can see that for yourself here. Selfie 4K 60 FPS videos on the other hand are better on Pixel. First of all, you get a wider field of view, which is very useful. You get a higher bitrate and just better quality video footage overall. Samsung does offer slightly better stabilization and sound quality though. So we're recording a selfie video using both the phones at 4K 60 FPS. At 4K 60 FPS. Now zoom videos are again far superior on Samsung. There's no amount of video boost that can fix Pixel's zoom video flaws, and let's not even talk about the jerky zooming slider. Now finally, low light video is of course superior on Pixel, especially with the video boost feature. Now this is where I like the video boost feature. Compared to the zoom, it's much more useful in low light. It can actually remove all the noise and capture better light information and detail than Samsung. Now between the Pixel and Samsung, it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of camera performance if you ask me. There are certain areas where Pixel wins and certain areas where Samsung wins. Finally, I also want to talk about the new camera coach feature on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. It's fine for rank amateurs, but I have two concerns that I definitely want to highlight. First of all, what even is a photo anymore, because you've got a camera coach guiding you to take a photo, and you know what, AI has actually gone really far now. While even that is fine, more importantly, you really cannot shoot action subjects if you're using camera coach, because you have to follow multiple steps to get one photo. Alright, now talking about the software experience, Pixel software experience is defined by Pixel UI based on Android 15, and Google also promises 7 years of OS updates. With Samsung, what you got was One UI 7, and right now it's on One UI 8, of course, and Samsung is also promising 8 years of updates, so one more than Google. Now both the experiences lean very heavily on AI, you're aware of it. So what you get is Google Gemini support, Circle to search, and plenty of editing tools on each phone. But both also bring a lot of unique AI features. For example, with Samsung, you get a bunch of Galaxy AI features like the interpreter, the generative edit, sketch to image, instant slow motion, and a lot more. With the Pixel 10 series, the headlining AI feature has to be Magic Q, and it is possible thanks to Tensor G5 and Gemini Nano. Now let me explain what Magic Q actually does. So it's supposed to surface useful information like some, dinner reservations that you might have made, or flight bookings, or whatever's in your calendar when you need it. For example, when you're making a phone call, it should give you, magically cue you that information that, there is a flight booking that you might want to refer to. However, in my time with the phone, not once did Magic Q show up, and I tried to force use it as well, but it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. Maybe it's not available right now. In fact, I know for a fact that there are certain new AI features that are not available at launch in India, which actually include the call notes, call messages, daily hub, and conversational edits. And Google, this is such a huge letdown because you're region locking certain AI experiences at launch, which is obviously not ideal, right? I mean, you're going to be spending top dollar for this phone or top rupee for this phone and not get everything that, you promise. However, there were certain AI features that I could test. For example, the camera coach feature, right? And there's one more that uses AI to add background music to your voice recordings, which to me felt pointless in the first place. And I tried it out regardless. And even there, when I added background music, I couldn't actually control the levels of the background music either, which is stupid because the music was sounding louder than my speech. And then there is the journal app, which is very similar to Apple's journal app, and it works really well. So basically you can take like notes or memories that you want to make, and Google uses AI to surface information or sort of summarize information that's there in your journal. Now these are the AI aspects of the phone, but overall when you look at the software experience, it's largely threadbare on the Pixel 10 Pro XL. With Samsung, you get a lot of features, and if you add Good Lock to the whole mix, you know what you can get. Or if you don't know, then I have a very easy video for you. Go check it out. You will get all of the information that you need. If you ask me, Pixel UI is a flagship great software experience, but One UI edges it. By the way, I'm shooting this post, we shot the original video, and I had to add the fact that Google actually dropped an update just before the video goes live, and it's about a 600 MB update, and I expected Magic Q to come with it, but unfortunately that's not there. But what's here is the Material 3 expressive design. Now I'm really glad that the expressive design is here, and a lot of these expressive design elements will start rolling out to first party apps in due time, and there are a bunch of first party apps that already have it as well. We'll show it to you in B-rolls. But yeah, I like the Material 3 expressive design. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments. By the way, we actually booked a 12,000 rupee flight ticket just to test out the Magic Q feature, so that we can make a call to the airline to make some change to it, and it will show up the flight ticket, but it didn't. So disappointed, but hopefully in future updates Magic Q comes to the Pixel 10 Pro XL and just the Pixel 10 series in general. So now you can see why I said at the start that the Pixel 10 Pro XL is both refined and frustrating at the same time. Now while the portraits and the haptics bring a smile to my face, At the same time, the bad quality portraits bring it back to a frown. The new ProRes zoom and the pixel snap are features that are pretty awesome if you ask me, and quite literally system sellers too. At the same time, the fact that a lot of AI features are not available at launch in India puts a damper on the experience. And therefore, the Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is available for a lower asking price now, feels like a more value for money flagship, which is something that I thought I'd never say before, by the way. And therefore, for now, the Galaxy S25 Ultra is the real flag bearer of Android flagships. Having said that, I am going to continue my toxic relationship with the Pixel 10 Pro XL and maybe daily drive it for a couple of months. Maybe even more. By the way, I want to ask you guys, do you think that the Pixel 10 Pro XL is misunderstood and maybe unfairly hated because of its high price, which will of course go down during sales? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.